Taiwan Semiconductor output to hit 4.9 trillion new Taiwan dollars in 2024. Biden says Mideast leaders must consider a two-state solution. Dagestan Russians storm airport to attack passengers of Israeli flight. Hamas promising to release 8 Russian hostages. Oil falls more than 1% as concerns about Mideast supply ease. Israel under pressure to trade Palestinian prisoners for Gaza hostages. Jordan asked U.S. to deploy Patriot air defense missiles. G7 presses China for immediate repeal of bans on Japanese food.
Hello, I'm Johnny. Thank you for joining us on Funday News. It's Tuesday, October 31st, and here are your top stories. Central News Agency reported that on Monday, Terry Fan, an Industrial Technology Research Institute expert, said the overall output value of Taiwan semiconductor industry is expected to hit a new high of 4.9 trillion NT dollars in 2024, up 14.1% year-on-year. STISC analyst Huang Huishi estimated that Taiwan semiconductor manufacturing sector is expected to see its production value exceed 3 trillion NT dollars for the first time ever in 2024 to around 3.01 trillion NT dollars, up 14.3% from 2023.
Nestled on the northwest coast of Taiwan, TSMC produces 92% of the most advanced chips in the world.
Fan estimated thanks to recovering end markets that will absorb bloated inventories by the end of this year. Production value of the world semiconductor industry will rise an estimated 12.6% in 2024 to 580.9 billion United States dollars. Huang forecast with chip inventories is expected to be drawn down in the months ahead. The output value of Taiwan's chip foundry sector that will rise 14.7% in 2024 to around 2.82 trillion new Taiwan dollars because of strong demand for 3-nanometer chips.
U.S. President Joe Biden is calling on Israeli and Arab leaders to think hard about their eventual post-war reality. He argued it's one where finally finding agreement on a long-sought two-state solution to the Israel-Palestinian conflict should be a priority. Biden said when this crisis is over, there has to be a vision of what comes next. And in our view, it has to be a two-state solution. The White House says Biden conveyed the same message directly to Netanyahu during a telephone call this past week.
The push for a two-state solution, one in which Israel would coexist with an independent Palestinian state, has eluded U.S. presidents and Middle East diplomats for decades. Palestinian statehood is something that Biden rarely addressed in the early years of his administration. Now, at a moment of heightened concern that the Israel-Hamas war could spiral into a broader regional conflict, Biden has begun to emphasize that working toward a Palestinian state should no longer be ignored.
According to reports from Russian media, local residents in Makakala, which is in the Russian Republic of Dagestan, stormed an airport in the city in an attempt to attack any Jews who arrived on a flight from Tel Aviv on Sunday. Footage reportedly from the scene shared on local Telegram channels showed rioters chanting Allahu Akbar and stopping cars in order to check the documents of passengers to ensure that they were not Israeli or Jewish. The rioters could also be seen carrying Palestinian flags while running through the airport.
In Khasavyurt, Dagestan, rioters gathered at a hotel where Israelis who had fled the fighting were reported to be staying, with some of the rioters entering the hotel and only leaving after ensuring that no Israelis were in the hotel. The CHP Dagestan Telegram channel reported that the riots in Khasavyurt began after a person resembling an Israeli citizen was seen walking near the hotel. The Russian Interior Ministry said on Monday police have taken over an airport in the predominantly Muslim Dagestan region and arrested 60 people.
A Hamas political leader, Musa Abu Marzouk, said his officials were now looking for the Russian-Israeli dual nationals in Gaza after the Kremlin handed him a list of captives. He told Russia's RIA Novosti news agency, "We are very attentive to this list and we will handle it carefully because we look at Russia as our closest friend. As soon as we find them, we will release them." Abu Marzouk led a Hamas delegation last Thursday to Moscow, where he praised Putin's highly valued stance on the Israel-Gaza war.
In Russia, large pro-Palestinian protests have been held in the North Caucasus, which is predominantly Muslim-populated and poorer than the rest of the country. The focus of these protests has been Dagestan, where thousands of people have marched through the center of Makhachkala, the capital, and Khasavyurt, a regional town. Anti-Semitic attacks are also on the rise, and posters and graffiti warning Jews to leave have appeared in towns across the North Caucasus.
Oil slipped more than 1% on Monday as concern eased about the Israel-Hamas war affecting supply from the region and as investors adopted caution ahead of this week's U.S. Federal Reserve meeting and other indications of global economic health. Reuters reported crude had jumped 3% last Friday after Israel stepped up ground incursions into Gaza, stoking worries the conflict could expand in a region that accounts for a third of global oil output. However, analysts said that concern was fading on Monday.
The world needs Russian oil and refined products.
John Evans of oil broker PVM said, when the fear of conflict spread shows no validation come the early hours of Monday morning's openings, that fear hedge is ordinarily unwound. Brent crude futures dropped $1.39, or 1.5%, to $89.09 a barrel by 0911 GMT. While U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was down $1.63, or 1.9%, at $83.91. CMC Markets analyst Tina Tang said, the weekend playout signals no further expansion into a wider regional war, which caused a retreat in oil prices.
Israel's government is facing a growing clamor to trade the estimated 229 hostages in Gaza for thousands of Palestinian prisoners in Israeli jails. Families of the hostages gained prominent support on Sunday in their effort to persuade Benjamin Netanyahu's administration to negotiate a swap with Hamas. A former head of the Israeli National Security Council and the newspaper Haaretz swelled the chorus of calls to exchange about 5,000 Palestinians, including Hamas militants, for the captives in Gaza.
Some relatives delivered that message in a blunt meeting with Netanyahu last Saturday in Tel Aviv, where they have set up a camp opposite the defense ministry. On Sunday, a delegation asked the president, Isaac Herzog, to keep the hostages top of the political agenda. The opposition leader Yair Lapid said Netanyahu had crossed a red line and weakened the Israeli defense forces. The Israeli government has said the return of hostages is a goal on par with defeating Hamas.
Staunch U.S. ally Jordan asked Washington to deploy Patriot air defense systems to bolster its border defense at a time of heightened regional tensions and conflict. Last Sunday, the spokesperson for this country's Army Brigadier General Mustafa Hirari said, "We asked the American side to help bolster our defense system with Patriot air defense missile systems." Jordan has been increasingly nervous that the Israel-Hamas war would spread into a wider conflagration.
Jordan's army is one of the largest recipients of Washington's foreign military financing. The kingdom has also requested more aid to tackle drones used in a raging multi-billion-dollar drug war along the border with Syria. Army spokesperson Hirari said, "The drones have become a threat on all our fronts." The kingdom has hundreds of U.S. trainers in the country and is one of the few regional allies who hold extensive exercises with U.S. troops throughout the year.
The group of 7 industrial powers called on Sunday for the immediate repeal of import curbs on Japanese food products, a reference to China's restrictions after Japan began releasing wastewater from the Fukushima nuclear power plant. The G7 trade ministers, in a statement after a weekend meeting on Osaka, said, "We deplore actions to weaponize economic dependencies and commit to build on free, fair, and mutually beneficial economic and trade relationships."
China slapped a blanket suspension of Japanese fish imports 2 months ago when Japan started the release of treated radioactive water from the wrecked Fukushima plant into the Pacific. While Japan and the U.S. have called the curbs unfair, Russia announced a similar restriction earlier this month. The G7 expressed concern on a wide and evolving range of non-market policies that include pervasive, opaque and trade distortive industrial subsidies and forced technology transfer.
The answer for yesterday was A, Chronicles. The film chronicles the everyday doings of a group of London schoolchildren. Did you answer correctly? Now let's delve into the news of G7 pressing China for immediate repealing of bans on Japanese food. Number 1, repeal, 废除,废止,法规. He plans to repeal a number of current policies. Number 2, curb, 控制,抑制,约束. He needs to learn to curb his temper. Number 3, mutually, 相互地,共同地. The two views are not mutually exclusive. Next, we have a multiple choice question for everyone to practice. Which answer would you choose? You can write your answer in the comments section. The correct answer will be announced tomorrow. And that's all for today's Funday News. Be sure to tune in to Funday News from Monday to Friday and click the link below to join Funday for free. I'm Johnny Wu, your host. I will see you next time.
It starts with one thing. In the end, it doesn't even matter.
Better world. Better world.
Welcome to California. Miracles, but miracle has happened tonight. Pray I'll be missing you. Heal the world, make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. There are people dying. I can't wait for the leaving, make a better place.